Hi everyone, it's the Formula here with Trust the Profits, and I'm here to talk to you today about post position in the Kentucky Derby. This is an area that I'm interested in ever since hearing for the past few years that post position one is a disadvantage, right? Post position one being a death sentence for any horse looking to win the Kentucky Derby. No one has won it at that position since Ferdinand in 1986. The theory there being that the number one horse is under attack, so to speak. So, starting in that position, he is at the desirable position close to the rail, but 19 horses are trying to take that from him. A lot of them are being sent early to get up there, and you see an avalanche of horses collapsing in on the one, pushing him to the rail, bouncing him around, getting him off his rhythm and his pace. Most recent example, so Known Agenda was a 6-1, not the favorite, but third in terms of favorite ranking with the morning line, fourth in terms of post time odds ranking. Uh, had the one position last year, was a horse that could have possibly won the Kentucky Derby if you talk to most experts, and finished in ninth place. So let's take a quick look here at what Known Agenda did. So you see what I'm talking about, post position one. Over here, you can see he gets a little bit of room as the two horse squeezes out. He's got a lot of room as he gets to the rail, but the avalanche begins. Horse is collapsing down upon him. Everyone's trying to get to the rail so they can shorten up their race. Look at the jockey in green here, Irad Ortiz. He keeps bouncing back further and further. His horse is cut in front of him, bounce him to the side. Pretty soon you're going to reach the quarter-mile point, and he's going to be in about 16th or 17th place. There he is, while this whole mountain of horses is in front of him. So, I developed an experiment of sorts where I went back to 2002, pulled all the data from then until 2021, all the entrants in the Kentucky Derby, their post position, and what their post time ranking was in terms of odds. So I let the public decide who was the best horse, who was the worst horse, and who was in between. So from that, I can take and make a difference, essentially saying that if you were the fourth ranked horse in terms of known agenda and you finished ninth, you were going to be a -5. In other words, that would show that the disadvantage would be a 5 for known agenda last year, taking the post one position. I wanted to see if that was consistent. Is this something that we're seeing happen over time where that one position from 2002 until 2021 is constantly giving horses a negative positioning with regards to where the post time favorites are? My hypothesis was that it would not actually show up as being a disadvantage. I've always thought that the one position does give you an advantage because you're going to have a shorter race, and there can be some disadvantages, of course, but I thought overall it would not show up as a net disadvantage. So just a couple things that I want to go through real quickly. The first chart I'm going to show you is a box plot, probably something not everyone has seen before. The idea behind a box plot is you're going to have this line in the middle. That's your median, that's your centrality. You're going to have four quartiles. The two in the middle are going to be represented by a box. So this would be your 25% to 50, and then up here would be your 50 to 75%. The two whiskers being the outside 25% quartile ranges. I hope everybody understands that. Okay, so now we get to the big moment. Post position one. This is post positions 1 through 20 here. All these little lines in here measured against this 0. 0 would mean even, no advantage or disadvantage on the whole, on average. You can see here that post position 1, it appears, does not have an advantage or disadvantage if you look purely at the median, right? It is smack dab in the middle. You've got some races where it was a disadvantage, some where it was an incredible advantage, all the way up to a plus 17. Post position 2, post position 9, and post position 13 look to be the areas where there's the most advantage. But let me show you another slide here. Similar chart, an interval plot. Just a slight advantage on average we're showing here for post position 1, but again, probably not enough to say that it is an advantage. It's just slightly above 0, meaning that there's no advantage or disadvantage. So many of you are wondering which horses would be pulling this up for post position 1, because I'm sure there's plenty of detractors out there. So looking at Lee in 2017, Sedgefield in 2007 and Limehouse in 2004 were the horses with the biggest movement up from their post time position to their final place. Right, so keep in mind, we're not talking about horses that have purely won the Derby. We're talking about any horse and how they moved up their position dependent on their post draw. So you can see here some trends that I noticed, right? So post position two seems to be, it's interesting because post position two seems to have an advantage, but post position one, three, and four are either on the line or just slightly below. You start to see a trend when you get out here to around post position 7 or 8 and then up through 13 where they're consistently above on average and they have a consistent number of instances where you actually did get an advantage from having those post positions. There's one in the middle here, post position 10, where the average was slightly below, but as a group, that's the area where you get the most advantage on top of post position 2. The areas where you have the biggest disadvantage, right next to it, starting with 14, you can see on average you're getting a disadvantage in the largest chunk of instances, right? You can see for 13 down to 20 coming from this group here. So going back to post one, so there were 9 times where there was actually a bump up in terms of public perception of the ranking through the odds of post time, a bump up to what their final position was. 9 times that happened. 8 times it was a negative, and then 2 times there was no difference. So if it was post time rank 4, they finished fourth, it would be a 0, right? No advantage or disadvantage. So this is why I'm saying post 1. A lot of people think there's a disadvantage to it. I don't think that the data, at least within this data set, shows that there clearly is a disadvantage. I would say if you're going back to 14 through 20, definitely a disadvantage, but right in the middle here, it seems like these horses do have a strong advantage. I will point out one more thing. So 12 times, post 2 and 13, 12 times out of my 19 instances that I'm going through here, 12 times they saw a positive difference from their post-time position to their final position, right? So this is like the Mandaloun's, the Medina Spirits of last year, right? That whole intersection got a positive bump up in terms of their ranking to where they finally placed. And then 11 times for post-9, the same thing happened. Okay, thank you for watching, everyone. I hope this was informative in some way. Feel free to debate me in the comments. Feel free to bring up um, your own thoughts on this, because it by no means is any sort of final commentary. It is just a simple experiment that I've run to see if there is any major advantage or disadvantage one way or the other. Thanks for watching.